Hi, AFA flight attendants and flight attendants everywhere. Wanted to give you a quick update. So, Congress is working on a CARES 2.0. I believe it's being called the HEROES Act, and we are currently in the process of poring over the initial text, making sure that there are essential worker provisions that we have been talking about. The flight attendants are included, all of that, but also working on extending the payroll support system that we have for aviation to other industries, because while we continue to grapple with the impact, the health impact of this pandemic, of course, we are very, very concerned about the financial impact. And we were able to secure the payroll grants that have, for the most part, kept us in our jobs, not had overnight mass job loss. Of course, our industry is down to running just 10% of the operation that it had in place on March 1st. We are starting to see more full flights. We're going to get into a little bit about the financial impact first, and then safety impact that we're dealing with right now. So immediately, I want to recognize that Miami Air flight attendants were told on Friday that they were receiving their last paycheck. Their carrier filed for bankruptcy on March 24th, the day that the Senate came to terms on the first CARES Act, which that night included the payroll grants to keep people in their jobs and connected to their paychecks and health care. The company filed for bankruptcy solely because of the effects of the coronavirus. They do flying mostly for professional sports teams, the Department of Defense, our U.S. military. None of this flying is taking place right now, and their business model has been in place for 30 years. They started up in 1990. They have been AFA members since 2001. They have been very faithful, regular members, participatory members of our union. And there are approximately 150 flight attendants there in the Miami area. So the owners of Miami Air have filed for Chapter 7. The company executives filed with Treasury for the payroll support grants as they were intended. Treasury, even though AFA has been on the phone with them numerous times, has had other members of Congress speak up. I want you to know that I have been interfacing with Senator Rubio, Senator Scott in Florida, Mario Diaz-Balart, who is a representative in the Miami area, Donna Shalala, also a representative in the Miami area, Lois Frankel, representative in the Miami area. All of these congressional representatives, both in the Senate and the House, voted for the CARES Act and supported our payroll grants in Congress. So these members of Congress took action to save our jobs, and it is only because the Treasury Department, under the guidance of Secretary Mnuchin, that the payroll grants have not gone out the door as they were intended to support these jobs. And now, with the bankruptcy hearing tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock, the money has got to arrive by then. Otherwise, the court will be forced to rule on the filing for Chapter 7, which is liquidation, and these jobs will be lost, which is not the intent of that Congress had when they passed the CARES Act. This is directly an impact of the coronavirus, and of course we've had seen other airlines go out of business. This is a real tragedy, and so we are working very, very hard to have Treasury be responsive. And the flight attendants there are taking action right now to try to save their jobs. What's incredibly unjust about this on so many levels as well is that these flight attendants won't even have the ability to have COBRA insurance, because COBRA is a continuation of a company plan. If the company no longer exists anymore, COBRA doesn't exist. So not only will these flight attendants lose their jobs, they will lose their health care, simply because Secretary Mnuchin did not follow through on what he was directed to do from Congress and get this money to support the jobs at Miami Air. We have been working directly with the Teamsters on this. The Teamsters represent the pilots at Miami Air. These are good union jobs, and in total 350 jobs in the Miami area that should be supported and should not be going to the unemployment lines. So help you raise your voices around this. And we're doing everything we can up to the last minute of the bankruptcy hearing tomorrow at 3 o'clock to try to save these jobs. Separately, as you know, Treasury did not do what was intended with the CARES Act in the first place and turned a portion of our payroll grants into loans. We also did not have the full amount that's required to cover our jobs. So many flight attendants, in fact, 35% of flight attendants across the U.S. industry are on some sort of voluntary leave or voluntary furlough at this time. And that is helping to cover the fact that there's not enough funds that went out to our airlines to support our jobs. But Treasury weakened that even more by putting a 30% tax on any of the payroll grants over the amount of $100 million, so that goes into the debt column in October instead of just being directed to our pay and benefits. So this was a direct attack on workers, and it weakened the payroll grants. We will continue to try to shore that up. We will also be working on other voluntary options. The whole point here is that Treasury has done everything they can to make this program not work. And it's only been through our action that we have actually kept it going. And it gives us some ability to maintain our jobs, make plans for the fall, give more time to plan for this, as opposed to what was happening with the financial impact on our airlines with coronavirus, where demand went all the way down to just 3% of what it was before. No business can operate like that. And we needed to have our airlines shored up, but also have this time to plan for what's really needed, because we're still in the middle of the healthcare crisis. So the coronavirus itself is what is causing the financial effects, and it continues to be a threat. We're not even to the point where we can say that we'll be able to lift the economy again, because it is not under control. So what was also intended under the CARES Act is that we worked very hard to help the public understand that the reason that there needs to be federal funding for aviation is because we provide an essential service to all of our communities. So there was a plan under the CARES Act to ensure that that essential service would continue. What was considered was obviously considered was that airlines would not be running flights that they don't need to operate at a loss. So it was always understood that airlines would pull back those flights. But what was also understood under the CARES Act was that essential service would continue. So one of the ways that we talked about this was to talk about the fact that there is essential travel that would need to be made. That is not just essential workers. There are people who need to go and take care of family members, need to travel for some reason. And one of the ways that we defined it early on for people back in March was, of course, there wouldn't be leisure travel. What are people going to leisurely travel to when Disneyland is closed, when restaurants are closed, when communities are closed down? No, we were going to follow the CDC instructions in the airline industry, follow the health authority instructions, and there wouldn't be, no one expected that there would be leisure travel at this time. So it was a way to describe essential travel and non-essential travel. People understand better what is essential and what is non-essential now. Just like they understand that you could have said before, you might have said before, maybe not us, but other people might have said before, that grocery workers don't have essential jobs. But we all know that in the middle of this pandemic, grocery workers are providing an essential service to all of us. Other people might have said before that flight attendants are not essential workers, but we all know that flight attendants are providing an essential service to the country going to work today. So as the CARES Act has been implemented, our airlines were petitioning to the DOT to have exemptions to be able to pull additional flights down. as airlines pulled down to just 10% of the service, but still retaining that essential service to all of our communities to help fight the virus and help get essential goods and services to all of our communities, that what has also happened is that we've started to see airplanes that are full. So normally what would happen in a situation like this is there would be a task force put together by the government with the departments that oversee the industry or have direct regulatory authority over the industry involved. So that's DOT, in this case, Department of Transportation, and of course HHS, because we're following in line with the healthcare guidance from our healthcare authorities. Normally that would happen, but we have not had that kind of direction and pull together by industry to bring together the industry components and all the stakeholders, the unions, the employees on the front lines, to put in place policies that address emergency situation. So we have called upon the government to provide those healthcare, those instructions to the industry and to the traveling public to help ensure that we are safe. But flight attendants, we know, as these policies are being put in place, are being put in a position of being enforcers of policies that are not well communicated to the public, that are not providing us with the resources to be able to implement them. And that is why we need clear instructions from our government, so it's clear to everyone, so that the airlines can comply with cleaning procedures, with social distancing procedures, with the wearing of masks. We need to recognize that there are clear instructions to the public, but there's always going to be exceptions. We are very familiar with there being exceptions on our planes and having to accommodate those exceptions for medical reasons, for very essential reasons. We are very familiar with making sure that anyone who comes to our plane is safe and is accommodated in a way where they can actually have this travel. So we have to have a better look at this. We have to have clear policies, and this cannot fall to flight attendants to be the enforcers. We're already getting some reports where flight attendants are put in a position of conflict because of policies that are rolled out without clear instructions about what happens when people don't comply. So we know this. We are on this. We are trying to address this in real time. We have advocates in Congress who are trying to address this, but we're going to continue to call on government to give clear guidance so that it doesn't fall to the airline policies, and it certainly doesn't fall to the flight attendants and the gate agents on the front lines to try to enforce policies that are not clearly communicated. So we want to make sure that you know this. Wanted to give you an update about the work that we are doing. We know that this is a very extremely difficult time. We also know that people are starting to think about, what is the fall going to look like? We are working on putting together what is going to be necessary to continue to support our jobs, our livelihood in the fall. And we are going to be working on that while we are working on the safety procedures and policies that also will do two things. It will fundamentally help to ensure that we are not putting flight attendants in harm's way, and we are not helping to cause the spread of the virus, which is the original threat that is threatening our industry, our jobs, our livelihood, our way of life. Secondly, that we are putting in place policies, just like we did after 9/11, to help reassure the public that air travel is safe and that they can come back and buy tickets with confidence. We have to put these things in place so that we can get to a place where demand returns and that supports our industry and our jobs. So there is a lot going on right now. We are very aware. We are also very aware that this is an incredibly trying time for everyone out there who is on the front lines and everyone who is at home supporting other jobs by staying at home and all the hardships that are in place. So stick with us. We're going to continue to give you information about the latest actions in Congress with our airlines, what we are advocating for. Let me just close out today by saying flight attendants are essential workers. We need the tools to be able to do our jobs. We need the policies that keep us safe and allow us to keep passengers safe. And we also need to be recognized for the work that we're doing with secure jobs and with recognition as essential workers with essential pay. So that is our position. That is going to continue to be our position. Stick with us. This is not an easy time. There is a lot that is uncertain. And as I'll close out by saying, be gentle with each other. Take care of each other. And know that we are not political. We are not with one political party. We are with people who are about solutions, and we will go into every room and every space that we need to go into to raise up our issues and to make things better and to make sure that this crisis does not fall on our backs alone. That's what we're going to do. That's what we have been doing. That's what we are going to continue to do. And it's a difficult time, so take care of each other. Say nice things to each other. Lift each other up. And thank you so much for all of you who continue to, show me why I am so proud to be a flight attendant and to represent flight attendants. Thanks very much. We'll be back with you again soon.